Hello, I'm Lynsey and I run children's inclusive book company Little Box of Books. We find all the books that reflect the diversity of our population. So brilliant stories that show diversity in race or culture or family setup to help more children see themselves in stories and help all children better understand the world and their place in it. One skill that I couldn't have done without, that I just literally wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't been able to write. And I'm talking about being able to write with a pen on paper and being able to express myself and having people understand what I'm writing. It has been crucial to who I am. I loved writing when I was younger and I could write notes to my friends. I used to distract them all in history, I think it was. It was really long and it was quite intense, and I used to write notes to my friends to distract them. I don't do that anymore and I don't recommend it. I used to get into a lot of trouble for it. But writing came in really useful when I trained to be a journalist. So I left school and I trained to be a journalist. So I wanted to report on what was happening around the world, what happened, I wanted to report on events and on entertainment. And writing was a key part of that. One of the skills you learn when you train to be a journalist is something called shorthand. And that is a skill where you write really quickly. So all the words are condensed into little squiggles. So if you looked at a page of my shorthand, all you'd see is little scribbles. But I understood what they were and I could read them back. And it meant that when I interviewed people, I wouldn't have to take a film recorder or I wouldn't have to take a voice recorder. I literally could sit there with my pad and write really quickly. And I'd have an accurate record of what somebody had said without playing loads of technology back. And likewise, the person I'd interviewed, if they wanted to challenge whether they'd actually said something, I could say, no, look at my notes. Here it is. This is what you said. Or if they wanted to hear more about what they'd said, I could show them my notes and explain what they'd said to them. So it's a really useful skill and it's used legally. You have to have those notes quite often. I think so. You probably still do now. If anybody challenges what you've written or what they've said in an interview. So I used that a lot and it helped me interview a lot of celebrities. So after I'd finished studying, I went and was an entertainment journalist and would quite often go and interview celebrities about their latest TV shows, what were coming up, their family, their lifestyle, all the things that you read in magazines. I was writing those things. And my shorthand came in so useful because I could just sit there and just scribble away and they would, I'd be able to get an accurate representation of what they'd said. So it was really useful, really quick. And, really helped my career. After I left being a journalist, I worked in TV. And again, I don't know about you, but when I write with a pen and paper, all my ideas come out. I can be much more creative with pen and paper. I use a computer all the time. I use a computer every day. But if I'm going to be really creative, then I need that process of writing things down on paper. I don't know, it just helps me get my ideas out. It helps me to connect to bits of me that aren't usually accessible, and that in the same way that a computer doesn't. So for me, that's a really useful way to get my thoughts out on the paper. So I used it to write scripts. I used it to write briefing notes for TV presenters. And sometimes when they're on camera and I couldn't communicate with them on words, I used to have to slip them a note to tell them what was next. That was all really useful. After I'd finished being a TV director, I went overseas and I was an aid worker. And that's where somebody usually works with a charity to help people who have been in earthquakes or torrential floods or typhoons. And I used to hear what people had been through. I used to write their stories down and sit with their families, hear what had happened to them, hear what they'd been through, and then communicate that back here at the UK to encourage people to support the charity through money and through sending things so that those people wouldn't have to suffer in the same way. And that was a really important job and I loved it. And writing again was part of that because you can't take technology into lots of these places. So sitting down, writing those interviews out gave me a really good connection with the people that I was working with. And fast forward to now I run my own business. And all of these skills have come together so that I can do this. I have to be creative. I have to write Instagram posts. I have to write blogs. I have to write interviews. I write a lot all the time. And the most creative way that I can do that is with pen and paper. It all ends up on the computer because I've got a website and I've got social media channels. But I do start the creative process by writing with a pen and paper. And it just helps me. It just works because I don't know what it is. It must be something about the process of it. But it really helps me to get the bits that I want to communicate about myself onto paper. It probably all ties back to the fact that I've always had a journal. Since I was about 8, I think since I could write properly, I've had a journal and I've written down my innermost feelings, like my thoughts about what's going on, what's coming up, any emotions that I've had. and that's been really helpful. It helps me to process things in a way that I don't think sitting in front of a computer ever has done for me. And I think that's been a really good support. I don't know what I would have done if I hadn't been able to write. But I'd say to anyone who is thinking about whether writing was a useful skill to have, I'd say it has been the most useful skill that I've got. And as you get older, you acquire lots of different skills, but still writing is the one that I do it every day. I still do it now. I still write my journal every day, and it has always been useful. So I hope this helps you to think about writing in new ways and think about all the different ways that you can use to write things down and express yourselves in new and exciting ways.